Hello and welcome to yet again another episode of Amiga Retro. To get a break of the Amiga 4000 videos, the 4 that I've had to this point, I was going to do an upgrade using the Romulus on this Amiga Revision 3 motherboard. And of course the Romulus, it's a ROM switcher. It lets you basically have two ROMs on board stored in flash, and then you can also use the onboard ROM as in here. So I was going to do a quick, my plan was to do a quick review of this ROM switcher, which is quite nice, at least in the description when I bought it. Anyway, regardless of that. So I removed the CPU in preparation to install this, because basically this will install in the CPU socket. So of course that plugs here and the CPU plugs on top. Of course I have to remove the CPU out of the socket, and that's when I noticed there's 2 points of corrosion on this socket, much to my dismay. So let me zoom in here as much as the camera will let me. You can see one right there. If I can point to it without tripping over the tripod, you should be able to see it. It sticks out quite easily. There it is, right there. That's corroded. And there's also another one, I'm not sure, right there. If I can point to it without fumbling, should be right there. That's another corroded pin. And that's kind of weird. It's just those two that are corroded. Now you can try to clean it, do what you can to get the connection improved. Now I didn't, for the record, I didn't notice any instability issues or other problems, but I don't feel comfortable leaving that socket in that condition, especially doing an upgrade. And not to mention, being an earlier revision motherboard, I'm not sure if it was intentional by Commodore or not, all of these socketed CPUs are single, I guess they call it single wipe sockets. They're only, if I can zoom in again, sorry. Oh, such zoom happening here. They only have contacts on the inside edges. There's no actual contacts on the outside. These are cheaper sockets, so thus they may give you undesirable results, especially when you do swapping in and out of sockets and like chips, like I've been doing here. The Agnes is not so bad. That Agnes socket's fine, the 84-pin PLCC socket. But the Gary, which I'm doing that in a previous video, I did a 2 megabyte Indivision, I think it's called the Ace 2B upgrade to this. So it actually completely replaces all the chip RAM on the board with its own 2 megabytes of chip RAM. And of course it requires to interface with the Gary to get the memory addressing correct and whatnot. So make a long story short, like always, with the single wipe sockets, when depending on the pin arrangements of whatever you're plugging in there and how thick they are, it can stress these to the point where they make really bad contact. And if you go to put in the original IC, it might be very loose and be intermittent and cause crashes, gurus, all that fun stuff. So before I do this, review on the Romulus for the Amiga 500. I guess you can use it in the 2000 as well. I don't know, but mainly it's targeted towards the 500. I'm going to replace this socket with one here I purchased off of DigiKey or Mouser, which I swear they're the same company, just different names, because pretty much their products are identical. Even the part numbers and stuff. Anyway, so I'm going to unsolder this, all 68 pins, and replace the socket. And I have my desoldering station and the soldering iron ready for work. I did replace the socket earlier for the ROM socket, because I was doing some other testing. And of course I did manage to lift one trace, which luckily I fixed unobtrusively. Oh, where are we here? Oh, it lies on top of the socket. I can zoom in a bit. Whoop. It's always fun. There it is, that white wire there. I basically completed the circuit, replaced a trace underneath, so it doesn't look that bad. The point of getting at that is I don't claim to be 100% perfect in anything I do. I never have, I never will. But regardless of how good you are, things like this do happen. The socket pretty much came out easily. It was a bit of resistance on this side, and you know, I was thinking to myself, this isn't a good idea. Maybe I should get the, you know, the hot air station here to do its thing, to heat it up a bit to release it. But no, I could do it, no problem. And of course it pulled off the trace. So if you get any resistance on these sockets whenever you try to pull them out, either reheat it, reflow it, use a solder sucker again, do something. But luckily it wasn't that bad. The trace was easy to replace. But you know, like I'm trying to get at here is, no matter how long you've been doing something, you can still make mistakes, and it happens. And the good thing is, I can fix my mistakes. And that's the bonus of it. So what I'm going to do is, when I desolder this socket, I am going to be very, very, very careful, because I got a bit too cocky on that one. Yes, that happens with experience sometimes. But anyway, enough of that. I'm going to fire everything up here and remove that socket. Enough of that preamble. I shall get on with the task at hand. Okay, I'm going to show part of the socket, because this would be very boring. It'll take me a while to remove all these solder from these 68 illustrious pins. If you hear a bit of clanking around, it's the wire hitting the tripod here. I do not have a wireless microphone, but oh well. So the first thing to do is ideally re-tin these, in other words, reflow them with some solder. And like I said, I'm just going to do this side first, and then I'll do the other side off camera. And I need to look for stuff. Yes, here we go, solder. I will grab some solder. I do have the camera on manual focus, so it doesn't decide to focus on my hand when it gets in the way, and it will get in the way, trust me. Yes. And everything seems to be good. What's top or bottom, I wonder? That doesn't really matter, does it? So basically, quickly, you don't need much solder, just a small amount. This just helps the desoldering station get a better purchase on the soldering the solder on both sides of the board. And that's the problem that happened to the ROM socket, is the solder was still stuck on some of the pins on the other side, even though I could pretty much wiggle it. No, I decided to wiggle it too much and pull it too much, and then the inevitable happened. But it wasn't horrible. I managed to fix it. But what I'm going to do a bit different here, though, is I'm going to add a bit of flux to this as well before I put the desoldering station, which actually I need to fire this up and get a bit of noise here. It takes a while to heat up, so while I'm doing this, without killing myself, 68 pins, 34 per side. The Agnes socket's 84. It could be worse, right? So yeah. And that one sucked up a bit more solder than I wanted it to, but it's fine. So there's that one side. I will put this with my arm in the way, and I will get my flux and just run a bead. The stuff is a bit thick, if it ever comes out, so it is a bit on the messy side. And I'm going to try to flow here. And there are some ground planes on this that will be a bit more resilient to heat, so I might have to have the dwell time on the desoldering station a bit longer. Okay, so there we go. Last time I didn't put flux on the ROM socket, which is right here at the edge. Maybe this will help. We'll see. I'm going to wait for this thing to come up to temperature, and then I will be right back, as I make a lot of noise as I approach the camera to turn it off. Okay, so it is up to temperature. It only takes a couple of minutes, but you know, it's better to pause the video than just sit here and wait for 2 minutes, because it seems like forever. And I have the desoldering gun ready, and as you can hear the mooing noise, yes, portable cow pretty much. Okay, so I'm gonna start on this edge. My hand will get in the way, I do apologize. I'll start from the bottom this time. And if I can get this, there we go. That's one. That was horribly how I moved that. Let's try it again. you try to wiggle it back and forth. The solder mask on this board, you can see some copper there showing. The solder will cover that. It's very weak compared to the revision 5s and newer. Okay, it seems to be working. If I can get this into the correct position, there we go. And the trick is, when you move it back and forth to free up the pin, you have to try not to scrape the solder mask too much. But like I said, the solder will usually, when you reflow it, the solder will usually take care of that anyways. I usually give a dwell time, this is the ground one, a bit longer. 4 seconds on the ground and about 2 on the non-grounds. Yeah, the thicker copper traces are usually the ground, or maybe the 5-volt rail. Something that requires more amperage. Okay. Over halfway. Every now and then stop and look. Everything looks fine. That way you have an idea. Maybe you might have to rework some of these before you continue. Ugh. There we go. I do steady it with my other hand so I don't shake all over the place. Not that bad for the shakes, but still. Like I said, it's very sensitive solder mask on this. It's very easy to scrape. So I want to keep it as gentle as possible. Okay, almost there. Okay, and then when you're done, run this for a few seconds, like desoldering stations. That way it can suck up any remaining solder that might be stuck in it. So this looks pretty good. I'm going to do the other side, same way as you saw it. I'll join you at that time and see how easy this will come out. I do not want to repeat what I did last time to the ROM socket. Never. Okay, anyways, enough of that. I shall return with my close-up hand. Yes. Where are you, the button? There it is. Found it. Oop. Oh my. Okay. The other side is done. Took about a couple of minutes. So what I like to do is you can use your finger like so, or you can use maybe the edge of a screwdriver to try to wiggle these free. You can usually get a good indication of how the socket may want to come out. This one is, of course, showing a bit of resistance. So I either can go over it again. Maybe that one there has to be redone, because I can see it closer up than you can. You can see where the holes aren't as clear. Now, just because they might look clear on this end, they still might have solder on the other. So I'm going to quickly redo the one, and it's more than one that's holding this back, but I'll just redo this one. Okay, and then turn this back on again, the noisy contraption. It should warm up a lot quicker. I literally turned it off a couple of minutes ago. I'll redo that one, and this time I'm going to use a hot air gun maybe to heat this area up a bit to coax it out of the socket, because these traces are not as resilient as the Amiga revision 5s and up, at least this board in particular. Okay, we are almost at temperature. Yeah, try to get this stuff out of my way because there's lots of stuff. So I'm going to redo this one with the solder sucker device, which is taking its time getting up to temp, but it's getting there. And this thing will definitely need to be cleaned, for sure. You should always, the desoldering stations, like the pump I'm using now, after every use, every session, and sometimes, depending how much you're desoldering, several times a session, you got to clean these so it gets the proper vacuum. Okay, I'll leave this one a bit longer. Okay, that one's clearer. Turn off the noisy contraption. There we go. Now, I can tell by the way this is moving, there's a bit of resilience here, especially here. Does not want to, might be able to coax it out with this one. this one looks a bit bent for some reason. It's close, but I don't want to. Yeah, I'm gonna touch that one up a bit. I'm gonna do a bit of rework in this area, and I'll join you at that time. Okay, good news. I reworked this one here. It did not move at all, and it seemed to be a bit bent, and I wiggled these, and it's pretty much out on this side. The only side it's stuck on now is right about in this area here, kind of from probably one of these back pins. I think this one. So I'm going to rework that one on camera and turn on the noisy device, and hopefully this will just fall out, because that's ideally what you want, because my solder has fallen on the ground. It happens every time. So the one that looks like it's holding it back is this end one here. And even then, I think just heating that up almost soldered that up. I mean, desoldered that. Yes. Always be patient. There's no rush here. Unless, for some reason, there is. And if that's the case, then let it wait till another day. Okay, here we go. Oh, the solder made a run for the floor again, like it always does. Okay, here we go. That's patience. Okay, that one is definitely loose. There's another one that seems to be a bit stubborn. So I'm going to redo these 4. Oh, because it should just come out. Yeah. I'm going to redo those 4. I keep saying that. I'm going to redo that one, this one, and this one. Because the other ones are pretty much out of the holes there, so I'm assuming they're about to leave the board. Here we go. Just touch up these. 1, 2. Actually, I said 4, didn't I? That was like 3. There we go. It's through. It just fell on the mat. I'm not sure if you heard that or not. That's ideally how you want to do it. I didn't even have to grab it from the other side. That's how the ROM socket failed. I tried. There you go. And as you can see, there's a lot of solder that leaked onto the... can you even see that? No, you can't. A lot of solder that kind of went to the other side here. Part of the desoldering process, I guess. But anyway, regardless of that, this fell out like it's supposed to without me even putting any force on it. So the ultimate sign, or sorry, proof, is to check the other side, of which, there we go. Would be nice to see. There we go. In frame, no kicking of the tripod today. So my visual inspection, beautiful. These traces are all awesome. They're all intact, none are ripped. And that 68 pin, partially corroded single wipe socket has been removed. And now all I have to do is focus on this. There we go. Put that in there, of course, without the foam, obviously, because that might cause problems. So that's pretty much, I'm not going to show that on camera. You put it in, you solder it. I'm the same idea, put it in, solder it, and then I put on a bit of flux afterwards, then reflow them, and then that's it. So I will get that done, and then we'll actually see if it works. So there we go. So, and this is the same for any socket, no matter which one you do. Follow the same procedures, and you should be good. Yes, if only I could speak today. Anyway, I'll be right back as I put this in frame. Anyway, soon I shall return. Once again, I lied. I have not soldered it on yet. I just want to let you know that I cleaned all the flux off using Q-tips. And be careful with that, because if you don't put a lot of pressure on these, because if there's little pieces of solder that aren't quite flush or whatever, they'll catch on the Q-tip, and guess what? You'll rip off the trace. The whole thing that you were trying not to do in the first place. So be gentle in that process as well. And if all goes well, I shall take the new socket, which is right here, And it should just drop into place, of course, as long as the pins aren't bent when they were shipped to you. And line that up, and that's it. It is in. All the pins are in. And then what I'm going to do is now I will go off camera and solder in that socket. And then I'll be right back, and then after that we'll see if this thing will actually boot. Oh, it did before, but obviously now that it's got a socket without corrosion in it, it should boot even better than before. Whatever, you know what I mean. I want to make sure it still works. And I shall be right back, at least from your point of view. Mine, not so much. So I have soldered it in, all 68 glorious pins. But always remember to clean off the residual flux. It makes it look much better and less sticky and less gross looking and whatnot. Now this is no clean flux, but I guess some flux I've heard may have some conductive properties, minor, but enough to mess with logic circuits. So I'm going to use the brush. I just used IPA, that's what I sprayed on here. It's great at removing flux. I'll give it a bit more. Now you can't just leave it like this. I mean, you could, but it'll be sticky because all you're really doing is breaking down the flux and then it's spreading it all over the board. So I'm gonna do a circular motion to make sure I get in between all the pins from pretty much every direction. And I'm going to put one more layer, I guess, of IPA. And then, before it dries, get a microfiber cloth, or you can use a paper towel, but the paper towel will disintegrate pretty quickly. The microfiber cloth, and it will absorb the flux. So just brush across the area that you sprayed the IPA on. Try different directions and whatnot. Yes, diagonally perhaps. Yeah, and then one more go here. And that should be it. I said one more go. There we go. And then you just peel this off. It's going to get stuck a bit, but just be careful. It will come off. And that has cleaned that up. And it's not sticky, it's clean. It will dry pretty quick because there's the remaining of the IPA that's on it. And there you go, pretty much. And if you hear that in the background, that is my fridge. I used to turn it off for my videos, but then I forget to turn it back on again. Melt. Yes, bad idea for a fridge when stuff is in the freezer and decides to return to its liquid state. Yes, but we're not here to talk about that. But there you go. So this is clean, and as you can see, quite professionally done by a person that is just a hobby. But am I confident in this? Yes. Through hole, I'm pretty good at. Surface mount, still working on that. Maybe before I retire, I'll get the hang of it. I'm getting better, like anything else, with practice, but through holes, a lot easier, trust me. But there you go. The socket is now ready for the ultimate test. And did I keep this in frame? Almost. And there we go. So I'll put the CPU in. The board will be facing the other direction, obviously, because all the ports are now facing me. But I digress. I will be right back, and we will see if all is well in this world. Okay, you can barely see it. CPU is installed in the socket. Just a regular 68,000, 8 megahertz variety ROM. The ACE 2B 2 megabyte expansion. Got a real-time clock here. This is a 512 kilobyte expansion, but I have it disabled, so all it's going to use as a clock because it's already going to do the 2 megabytes maximum for chip RAM, so I won't even see the additional 512. Anyway, you're here to see if this thing will at least power on. Now, I did before with the questionable socket, but now it should power on with the improved socket. At least one would hope. And the floppy lurks over there with the ME test kit and whatnot. So let's see what happens when I go to turn this on. Oh, I hear noises. I just need to have my monitor on, which I don't think it is because I unplugged the power to it. One moment, please. I plugged in the HDMI cable at least, didn't I? That's good. There, that might work a bit better. Should be Workbench 1.3. I mean Kickstart 1.3. Yeah, there it is. That's bright. It took a while, and there you go. And I'll put in the ME test kit, And that should load up no problem. And there you go. And my mouse has escaped me. One moment, please. Actually, I could have used a keyboard, but oh well. So click on memory, and there you go. There's a 2 megabyte chip. Say that this thing is obviously working just fine with the Gary adapter socket. So it seems to be at least functioning. I can do the tap test here, see if it gets bothered by anything. Multiple chips, and I still have mouse movement, so nothing horrible happened. Yes, there you go. That's a better in frame there. So that seems to work just fine. Since I have my soldering iron stuff out, now of course I'm not going to do this on the video. I'm going to just recap the board anyways. There's probably nothing wrong with them, but keep this revision 3 from aging any more than it has, since taking care of a few of its issues. And yeah, so in the next video I'll actually do the review of the, this will focus on it, of the which direction should this go? I guess that's the front of the socket anyways, of the Romulus, the ROM switcher. Like I said, the flash will hold 2 ROMs of your choice, and even comes with software to flash whatever you want, and in conjunction with, of course, the onboard ROM. So on this one I'll leave the 1.3 in here, and I'll probably put 3.1 and 3.21 or 3.221 on this, and we'll see what happens at that time. And that wraps up this video. And like, it wasn't really planned, but you know, this revision 3 is definitely unique. There wasn't many of them made, and there's a few other issues I want to fix on this. They're not issues, just operational issues, different from what I'm used to. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the board, but a few things I'd like to change. And once again, they can be reversible if for some reason you want to go back down that route. That again is for another video, but the first video will be definitely the Romulus review, and hopefully I will do it justice. Maybe it will do me justice. There will be justice one way or the other. And that's it. That wraps up this video, and as always, thanks for watching.